Citron. Mystics in front. Really fighting through some pain over there. Late. Carla Late has had the response time and time again. Just her gait and her cadence is different here from what happened on that last play. Still gets it. Still lays it in. Citron, a career high. Citron back on for Washington. Into the hands of Late. Late in the lane. No! Washington survives in 4 overtimes.
Wasn't there just like one key highlight? You had to come. I said, come in with Mystics. You came in with 4 plays.
Listen, I wanted to give everybody the full context. 4 overtimes,
No.
Kevin?
4 overtime game. The Mystics beat the Portland Fire last night in 4 overtimes. The game had 21 ties, 12 lead changes, and took 3 hours and 35 minutes start to finish. Good job, Max. Good morning, everybody. Wizards general manager Will Dawkins will be on the show today. 12:40 likely for him. Before that, Ben Standig will join us as he always does on Mondays at noon. The Nats took 2 of 3 from the Orioles over the weekend to get back to a game above 500. Luis Garcia, 2 homers and 5 RBIs in the Nats 6-4 win yesterday at Camden Yards. On Saturday, another outstanding start for Foster Griffin. He allowed just 1 unearned run on 3 hits in 7 innings while throwing 112 pitches. That's the most by a Nats starting pitcher since Patrick Corbin had 113 against Pittsburgh almost 4 years ago to the day in 2022. Griffin tied his career high with 9 strikeouts on Saturday against the Birds, lowered his ERA to 2.93. He is a likely all-star at this point. The Nats open up a set at Fenway in Boston against the Red Sox, who took 4 straight from the Yankees over the weekend. If you're wondering how the golf finished this morning, if you were watching, there was a long rain delay, and then Hovland and Scheffler went down the stretch. Scheffler buried a long putt on 18 to force a playoff, but darkness came. They finished it this morning. Hovland made on the first playoff hole about a 10-footer for birdie, and then Scotty missed about a 6 to 7-footer to force another playoff hole. Scheffler hasn't won now in his last 13 starts, although he does have 8 top finishes during that stretch without a win since late January. But I think a lot of golf fans shocked that Scheffler missed that putt on that first playoff hole this morning. The World Cup's knockout round is underway. 16 round of 32 games, 1 down. Canada beat South Africa yesterday, another 15 to go, including 3 today. The U.S. plays Wednesday night against Bosnia-Herzegovina. That game will be in Santa Clara, Levi's Stadium. You know, the stadium where that master strategist Brandon Ayuk videotaped himself and then posted on social media driving around that stadium at 100 miles per hour plus. There's a misdemeanor arrest warrant out for him stemming from that incident. And he actually asked in, I think it was Friday's episode 16 of his Netflix special, Max, he actually asked if it was true that there was an arrest warrant out there for him. It is true, Brandon. And then he suggested, what'd you say?
It's just unbelievably funny.
Yeah, we're gonna catch everybody up to speed on the last 3 or 4 episodes, if you've missed them. But in that episode, when he started talking about the arrest warrant, and said he's going to duck it, by the way, by not going back to Cali. But in that episode, he actually dropped an interesting nugget that I'm not sure everybody picked up on. Maybe you guys did. I wasn't really following it closely over the weekend. I got caught up kind of early this morning on all of the Ayuk and social media stuff. But he referenced throwing with Jaden Daniels in California. In case you missed it, I'm going to play it in a few minutes. We'll play all of the Brandon Ayuk episodes that have come out since. This is not an episode a week thing. He drops 2 to 3 a day. So you don't have to really wait for it. We'll catch you up to speed on as much as we can, or at least as much as we found sort of entertaining from over the weekend coming up in a few minutes. Real quickly, though, on this Mystics game, anytime there's a 4, I think for sports in general, team sports in general, like there are things you pay attention to even if you're not paying attention to something. Like everybody remembers buzzer beaters. Everybody remembers like ridiculously long buzzer beaters, like half court buzzer beaters to win games. Everybody remembers multiple overtime games. The 4 overtime thriller that the Mystics won last night, 124 to 123. I didn't see the game. I did not. But I always find these kinds of games interesting to go back and kind of read about them, read the box score, see what it looks like. It's memorable, obviously, for those that did watch it or participate in it. So it tied the longest game in WNBA history. The other 4 overtime game in WNBA history featured the Mystics as well when they beat Seattle back in July of 2001. I mean, that's 2 months before 9/11. That's how long ago it was. They beat Seattle 72 to 69 in 4 overtimes. That is a low-scoring game for 4 overtimes. In the game yesterday, the 124 to 123 final, that's 247 points combined. This was the shocker for me in reading about this game. It's the second most points in a game in WNBA history. Regular season, postseason. 247 points, 124 to 123. I guess, the quarters are what, 10 minutes? Are they 10 minutes max? Is it a 40-minute game?
Yes.
Or is it a 12-minute quarter? Or are they 48-minute games?
No, I'm pretty sure 10-minute quarters.
Okay. So it's not as long as, obviously, an NBA game. I don't know, 124, 123 just seems like it wouldn't be the second highest scoring game in league history. The highest scoring game ever was back in 2010, the Mercury versus the Lynx, 251 points in 2 overtimes. Also in this game, the combined teams, both teams scoring 120 points is just, or more, is just the 4th time that's ever happened in league history. And then as far as the Mystics go, the Mystics became the first team in league history to have 3 players score at least 27 points in the same game. 27. That just doesn't seem like a lot. But again, it's a shorter game. Just check on that, Max, to make sure I'm right about that. 8 players played 45-plus minutes. That's the most in a game in WNBA history. And the Mystics had a duo, Citron and Michaela Onyenwere, became the first duo in Mystics history to each score 30 or more in a game. How about that? Some fun facts to know and tell about last night's 124-123 Mystics win. This Citron she finished with 32, but 30 of them were in the 4th quarter and in the overtimes. Good for her. She played 53 minutes in the game. Okay. Anything else? They are 40-minute games, correct? And then are the overtimes 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Are you checking on this?
I am, yeah.
Because I feel like an idiot for not looking that up. It just occurred to me as I was talking about the game. Well, maybe the point totals are low in terms of all-time combined because it's a shorter game. It is a shorter game,
yeah,
right?
They're 10-minute quarters, yeah.
Okay, and then how long's the overtime?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Got it. Okay. Congrats to the Mystics for their big win. And a memorable win at that. All right. By the way, there's so much NBA breaking news. I know so many of you don't care, but there is one very interesting NBA note. Free agency starts tomorrow night. And today you're going to get a lot of the opt-outs, opt-ins. There are rumors, by the way, out there about Anthony Davis being traded. I asked Will Dawkins about Anthony Davis. You'll hear what he said when I play the interview that I recorded with him on Friday. But to me, the most interesting is that Kawhi Leonard may get traded back to Toronto, and it's because he wants to get traded back to Toronto. When he got traded by the Spurs to Toronto in 2019, he had 1 year left on his deal, and he told Toronto, I'm not re-signing here. I'm not going to live here. I'm not re-signing here. You got me for 1 year. And they won the title in 2019. And he was sensational. He led them. It was a lot of strapping the team to his back and led them to the title. Now, Kevin Durant got hurt in the finals when they played Golden State. We don't know what would have happened had Durant stayed healthy for the entirety of the finals, but Kawhi was amazing and really, I think, made himself a bona fide top 25, top 30 player of all time with that run. He's coming off one of the better regular seasons of his career. He's been in LA ever since 2019 with the Clippers, and they're going to trade him, it looks like, according to Shams, to Toronto because that's the only team he says he will sign a long-term deal with. I actually would love it if he went back to Toronto. Toronto was on fire there for a few years leading up to that. And then getting him and winning the title. It's a great city, by the way. If you haven't been to Toronto, it's a phenomenal city. And a lot of great basketball players now in the league, including Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, have come out of Toronto. Toronto's become a hotbed for young youth basketball. And a lot of it's ended up in colleges and into the NBA. But that would be wild if he got traded back to Toronto because he wants to go back to Toronto and he'll sign a long-term deal there. I think it's interesting. All right. Yeah, lots of stuff going on in the NBA as we are on the verge of, this league, by the way, let me, as an aside, they've done a very good job of staying relevant for a big portion of the year, especially the part of the year that the NFL takes a break. I mean, their playoffs are played, yes, during the draft, but once the draft is over, they basically have a month plus of really a month, almost a month and a half of playoffs, finals, draft, and then free agency. And then when it's over, yeah, there is a break. And the NFL starts to kick back up into high gear when we get to September. And then the NBA, for all intents and purposes, with the general sports consuming public, kind of gets shelved until the NFL is through its season and its postseason, and then its postseason, which includes free agency, and then, of course, the draft. But this, it will be an active day tomorrow. Tomorrow, by the way, Serena Williams will play at Wimbledon in the first round of the women's singles, or the ladies' singles, as they call it over there. Looking forward to seeing her. Do we know what time that match is? I hope it's not during the show. I really want to sit down and watch it. I did not watch any of the soccer yesterday. I heard it was very exciting with Canada advancing to the round of 16 for the first time ever in a World Cup with a very late goal. I think it was stoppage time. Am I right about that?
92nd minute.
92nd minute. Now, refresh my memory and those that will be tuning in for the first time to soccer in 4 years. Once we get to the knockout round, what happens after the regulation of 90 minutes or 90 minutes plus stoppage time? What happens?
They play an extra 30, split into 15-minute halves, and then if you're still tied at the end of those 30 minutes, we go to penalty kicks.
An extra 30. It's not sudden death. It's just an extra 30.
A full extra 30.
So you could score 3 goals and win by 3 in overtime.
Correct.
What do they call that? Do they call that overtime?
Extra time.
Extra time, and then we get the penalty kicks if we're all square at the end of 30 minutes. And that's 5 penalty kicks for each team?
Yeah, and then that's
Or is it
after
3?
After 5, it's sudden death.
Okay. Now the bracket for the 32, I was checking this out the other day. Iran did not make it into the knockout stage because that was going to be a potential U.S.-Iran second round game if they both won, but they didn't make it. Who else didn't make it that was, I don't know if that was a shocker. Did anybody not make it that everybody expected to make it?
I'm looking at the bracket right now. Honestly, a lot of these teams, a lot of people expected
Wasn't
to be here.
Uruguay supposed to make it?
Uruguay was good. The Cape Verde coming out of their group was kind of a surprise for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Uruguay really dropped the ball.
They get Argentina, and Messi scored again the other night.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of these African nations are really doing a great job at like coming on and advancing into the knockout round of this tournament like they haven't for a while. So it really speaks to a lot of the great football culture going down in Africa. Like Ivory Coast is in there.
So we've seen what, more African teams than we typically see.
Mm-hmm.
Congo, Cape Verde,
Senegal,
Ivory Coast, right?
Yeah.
Who else? South Africa obviously was in the game yesterday.
Algeria,
right?
Rock Chalk.
Right.
Egypt. Yeah. A lot of African nations. Ghana, like all these teams have done a great job of advancing. So, and really, yeah, I'm looking forward to this knockout stage, Kev.
Okay. Yeah, 3 games today. Brazil's a massive favorite. Or Germany's a massive favorite over Paraguay.
That they are.
Yeah, that they are. And then I think there's a really good game tonight.
Netherlands and Morocco.
Not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Morocco is really good right against the Netherlands.
Yeah, and the Netherlands, like they're a really weird team to deal with because they're all like super tall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those Dutch, man, they all look super healthy. They're big and strong. Yeah. If you've ever been to the Netherlands, if you've ever been to Amsterdam, you're walking around or riding around, and it's just like, man, everybody looks healthy here. All right. When we come back, we will catch you up to where we are in Brandon Ayuk's series. I think we're on like episode 15 or 16, something like that. And we're going to play as much of it as we can since the show ended on Friday. I mean, this guy's playing chess, man. I mean, he is really playing chess to the 49ers checkers. That's really clear to many of you. We'll weigh in when we come back. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the Team980.com.
Oh, you thought I was done? Man, get your ass up. Come here.
He wasn't done. I don't think he's going to be done. You just have to keep checking in with us. Max is doing a great job of scanning social media while we're on the air to get the latest from Brandon Ayuk. A lot of activity in this video barrage that he's been in the midst of over the last, 2.5, 3 weeks now? Something like that. I mean, we've
months.
had probably,
it feels like years, but
yeah, like I said, it's getting a little bit exhausting, but then he'll drop one that makes you laugh, like the one where he was wearing
without
the
fail.
Washington, cap and the entrance foyer of some house, talking about get your tickets. I'm back on tour. www.washingtoncommanders.com. I think he said commanders.com. I don't know. Maybe you can get tickets at commanders.com. I don't know. Plug in commanders.com. He may have gotten it incorrect. I think it is washingtoncommanders.com to get tickets.
Commanders.com takes you right to the homepage.
There you go. Nice job, Brandon. So we're going to play, I guess, the key videos from over the weekend. It starts with the one that actually, it's kind of funny at the beginning, although it's kind of sad too, but there's a reference to Jaden Daniels in this video. Go ahead and play it.
All right, but like, on a real serious note though, can anybody tell me if I really have a warrant out for my arrest in California? Because my bro said he trying to throw in Cali. But if I got a warrant, bro, I'm about to stay out here.
Well, who actually believes that he doesn't know that he's got an arrest warrant out for the misdemeanor traffic violation that he so brilliantly videotaped himself, breaking the law, going over 100 miles per hour.
Masterful gambit.
Outside, what'd you say?
Masterful gambit, sir.
Yeah, outside of the stadium in December. It was a little bit odd that it took so long for Santa Clara authorities to bring charges, but apparently they finally got around to looking at it in February and then came up with the arrest warrant that has not been served because he hasn't been back in California. So, and look, he just said he's going to duck it. He's going to stay out here, wherever out here means. I don't know. I've read he's in Virginia. He's in Georgia. Not sure where all these videos are being shot from. But did you pick up on the middle portion of what he said? It is a little bit difficult to understand. The tone drops a little bit. But I think I've deciphered it, and I want you to play that again, Max, so I can tell everybody, just listen carefully when he talks about his bro, and he's trying to stay in California. Play it again.
All right, but like, on a real serious note, though, can anybody tell me if I really have a warrant out for my arrest in California? Because my bro said he trying to throw in Cali. But if I got a warrant, bro, I'm about to stay out here.
So he says, because my bro says he's trying to throw in Cali, but if I got a warrant, bro, I might just have to stay out here. So, again, I don't know where out here is, but his bro is Jaden Daniels. And Jaden Daniels is going to be throwing in California. And some of the receivers on the team will be throwing with him in California. They've already done it once this year. Ben asked him when Jaden was met with the media before one of the OTA sessions. Ben asked him about, will he be throwing with other receivers? Or someone else asked him about throwing with other receivers. He said he was going to do it. And Ben said, will there be any new additions? And he said, well, you got to stay tuned. You might be able to see it on social media. So I don't know. Was Jaden planning on throwing or including Brandon Ayuk in some of the throwing sessions? By the way, that's not tampering. You can work out with, you can throw with other players in the league. You're allowed to do that. He just can't recruit Brandon Ayuk on behalf of the team. So, look, he said that, he may just be saying and be wishful about getting invited out to throw with Jaden, but that was the reference there. He does have a brother. I looked it up, but his brother's not a guy that he'd be throwing with in Cali. So that was the first one. That dropped on Friday afternoon, maybe?
That was Friday at like 12:30. Because I walked out of here and they were like, "Did you see the Ayuk video?" I said, "There's another one?"
Yeah, we got to catch those before we're off the air. So he's going to duck the arrest warrant for as long as he can. By the way, the other part of that is if he's being serious about that, that means that he may not be going to training camp when the 49ers training camp opens. I mean, who knows with this guy? I mean, the strategy is so grand and it's so nuanced, and it's really hard to follow at times. It's clearly working for him. But who knows? It may change, and maybe somehow he'll end up, having the arrest warrant issued and end up at training camp with the reinstatement already completed. All right, so that was video one down. The second one, what was that?
One down. This next one is him talking about his agent.
All right, let's hear that one.
Also, I do not have an agent. I terminated my SRA with my previous agent through the NFLPA last year in November.
Yeah. Look, there was a lot of discussion about whether or not his agent was still with him, whether or not, he wanted to be with him when he was out, when he was missing or not, reachable by people like TJ Houshmandzadeh and others that were out there saying, haven't talked to him in forever. Reporters saying nobody apparently has talked to him. They don't know where he is during, sort of the early to mid, maybe even to late spring. There was at least some reporting that suggested that maybe the agent was no longer his agent. So he says he fired him. The SRA is a standard representation agreement. That's what the acronym stands for. So he fired his agent all the way back in November. Now, there's more on the agent coming up in a future episode, which we're going to play for you. But now we know the status of whether or not he's being represented. I think it's been pretty obvious he hasn't been represented because the tact, and I think most of you know, I've been mostly, 100% sarcastic on the brilliant strategy that he's employing here during this offseason. But it certainly appeared as if there wasn't anybody helping him, over the last few weeks. Of course, somebody could have been helping him and he could have just been not listening. But you would have thought that there would have been something in there, and the filing for reinstatement or a suggestion to go back and face the arrest warrant, whatever it would have been out there from an agent. All right, this was number 3. Which one is this? This came out Saturday?
Yeah, this came out Friday night, Saturday morning. This is him kind of clearing up the story with his agent, and he continues to talk about his agent's affiliation with a certain general manager.
Okay.
But yeah, back to the agent situation. I just wanted to clear that up because for some odd reason he came out a couple weeks or a month ago and said that he still represents me, and I just wanted to let y'all know that that's not the case. And there's nobody that will be speaking for me. I ain't going to no third party. I ain't finna call no old to get on here and speak for me. Y'all gonna get it from me live and direct. And actually, I'm not gonna say they be lying for no reason. They be lying for a real specific reason. They be lying because they be hiding. But me, I ain't got nothing to hide. And that's why I'm still on that one team, despite the fact that I've been banging burgundy and gold for like 2 months now. So they got that funny business going on.
Well, he would clear up the thing as to why he couldn't talk about Ryan Williams as the agent, by the way, with Athletes First. I don't think Ryan Williams has been quoted anywhere in the last few months about
nothing.
Brandon Ayuk. I'm right about that, correct?
Yeah, I haven't seen anything.
Because
Ryan
after
Williams
after I
speaking
watched it,
on-
I searched to see if Ryan Williams had publicly said anything. The only thing I could find was reporting that said that Brandon Ayuk's agent has said that he has not talked to Brandon Ayuk in months. But he didn't necessarily say that he was still representing him. Remember, there was a period in which people were actually a little bit concerned about his whereabouts and what was going on with him. All right, that leads into a blockbuster. This was like a double episode because this is like 3 minutes. Are we going to play the whole thing?
We can dump out of it whenever you're ready, but I have the full 3 minutes ready
This
to go.
is him basically explaining what's been going on from his perspective. You know, there's always his truth, her truth, and the real truth lies somewhere in the middle. This was him with a double episode late Saturday explaining everything, including his agent's relationship with the general manager, John Lynch.
All right, y'all. So I understand that a lot of y'all is new here. And so I'm going to just fill y'all in and give y'all the details so that everybody can understand. The reason why the agent being fired is such an important detail in this whole story is because that agent is also the agent of the general manager for that one team. And that agent really started this whole because I fired his ass, but he want to text my wife like he's smart. You don't ever text my wife. Your ass fired. Your ass grass. Get up out of here. Get gone. So he is also the agent for the general manager of that team. And these all weirdos, creepy predators. I would never, ever, ever these. I would never, ever, ever with these. I don't care how long I gotta wait to get to you, my baby. But if it involves with them first, I'm waiting. General manager gonna pull up to my house. Oh, weirdo. Like, bro, don't pull up to my house uninvited, boy. Shit ain't safe. But I knew his ass was gonna do it. So I'm looking at my camera, my front door camera. I see a big old white boy, white man, former NFL safety. And I'm like, oh, hell no. And I know my wife is about to be back home soon. So I had to call my wife and say, it's a big ass white man at the house. I don't know what he doing over there. He was not invited. Creepy. So if you on your way home, probably spin the block a few times because I don't know what bro on. The same general manager that tried to run me down and come apologize for his head coach because his head coach got a temperament of a toddler and was speaking out the side of his mouth to me, knowing that you got it, bro. You got it, bro. What I'm gonna do in here, beat you up? Come on, bro. Like, come on, bro. You just talking crazy because you know you can talk crazy. But you feel me? You gonna respect me, or I'm gonna get on, bro. I'm gonna get on, bro. So
okay, we're done. So it went on for another minute or so. He started by saying that the agent Ryan Williams, was also representing John Lynch, the general manager of the 49ers. He fired his ass, and then he texted his wife. I guess the agent reached out to his wife. Who knows why he reached out to his wife? I have no idea, but apparently you do not text my wife. And then we got into the weird, creepy predators because John Lynch went to his house. Who knows why John Lynch went to his house? Maybe it was to check on him. Maybe it was to see, is he okay? Maybe it was to, have a conversation because he's not in the building anymore. Who knows why? Maybe he was creepy and predatory. Maybe that too. The whole thing's gotten so out of control that, look, let me net it out for you. If you're wondering or even care what I think at this point, I'm out. Like, dead out. No interest anymore. Our team does need another talented wide receiver, and my God, is he talented. He was one of my favorite players at the end of 2023. Thought that he was becoming a legitimate top 10, probably closer to 5 within a few years than 10. He was that good at the end of 2023. But who knows what he'll be 2 years after a serious injury. And the bottom line for me is that Brandon Ayuk, through his actions, or really, through inaction, has made it obvious that he's not interested in making himself available. He talks about wanting to become available, but his actions or inaction speak to him not wanting to be made available. Instead of facing his employer, he has spent the last 3 weeks ripping his employer on social media, to the point in which, he's probably getting to that point where it's potentially, and this may be a reach, there could be some conduct detrimental, and the 49ers could go after money that they've already paid him. Many people have reported that the 49ers are contemplating whether or not to go after some of the money they've already paid him. I don't know. That seems like a long shot. That seems like stand in line with, arrest warrant on misdemeanor and anything else that's going on in his life. And it's going to take 5 years. But for me, it's like he's made it obvious that he's not interested in making himself available through actions that he could have taken and hasn't. Instead of facing the 49ers, he rips them on social media. Instead of filing for reinstatement, which he has to do, because he's on the reserved, left squad list, he's spent 3 weeks ripping every professional relationship he's had in the last 2 or 3 years. His skin's too thin for me at this point. Like, he is way too sensitive. Now, again, some of the things that he's referring to, I don't know why the agent texted his wife. I don't know why specifically John Lynch went to his house. But I know this, and everybody's got perspective, and perspective is everything, man. It's everything. Your life experience frames your perspective. If I got paid a $120 million contract over 4 years and my general manager wanted to talk to me, I'd probably make myself available. And if the general manager came by for whatever reason, unless he's coming by in some threatening manner, I don't know. It's possible. But I don't think my skin would be so thin as to go off, several months later on that idea. I don't think that that's crazy. Some of you do. I know. Some of you, that's it. You're all on board the Brandon Ayuk train because John Lynch drove to his house, because his agent texted his wife. I don't have enough context to know what those, efforts were about. I do know this. It's the only thing I do know at this point. He has not done what he could have done or could be doing to make himself available for football. And so I'm out. And the reason he hasn't done that, it's a combination of things. He's not very bright, potentially. That's an answer. He's not stable. That's certainly an answer. Or he's just way too hypersensitive to things that have gone on. Getting thrown out of practice because he came out wearing the wrong uniform, whatever it was. They wanted to trade him when he got injured. That seems a little low to want to trade him, from the jump. Remember, Grant Cohn, the 49ers guy, who is definitely more of an Ayuk guy, at least on social media, than he even was with us when we had him on. But, he suggested that, it took a while for Ayuk to even accept the offer of 4 years, 120. Like, the 49ers were like, what's going on, man? A couple of weeks passed with the contract sitting in front of him and he didn't sign it. Clearly, he didn't want to sign it. And then they got cold feet and they tried to trade him, or there was talk of trading him. But Kyle's the one that stepped in and said, no, I don't want to trade him. I want him on the team. It's a weird, strange saga that's missing a lot of context. It's missing a lot of detail for anybody to weigh in with definitive sort of opinion in terms of why you feel the way you feel. But I know one thing, okay? He has not done what he could have done and what he could be doing to make himself available. And instead, he's gone on a social media tirade, barrage of insulting his current employer, which makes me believe, this is opinion, he's too thin-skinned. And then you've got the question of, will he actually be really talented? And then you, of course, now this has to be a reveal for any adult out there. Any adult has to know, watching what he's doing, that is a sign that it better go well, or his next team's going to be on the end of all of this, whatever you want to call it. Because this time of year, it plays much bigger than it would, obviously, if we had games going on. If games are going on, this is sidebar. But I'm done. I could get into, what I think is going on, but I don't know for sure. I don't think he's very bright. I think that there's clearly a hypersensitivity to anything that happens to him that's adverse, that makes me believe that adversity is not something he embraces and deals with well. And then, his mental stability, I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. Perhaps he's fine mentally. But I think that he has hurt himself over these last 3 weeks. I think the team themselves, like our team, I think that they were more likely than not to be interested in him a month ago. I talked about this all offseason up until a couple of weeks ago. I was convinced that they were going to be very interested if he became available. Now, of course, they're having second thoughts now. If there was a high level of interest, and let's just say there was just a level of interest, which I believe is true, they're clearly having second thoughts now. You have to. I mean, if they're not having second thoughts, they're not the front office. I think they are. Now, how they handle those second thoughts, they got plenty of time, because training camp doesn't start for another month. There are going to be many more videos, I'm sure, to come. I think the best advice for him, if anybody can advise him, is shut up, file for reinstatement, tell him you're showing up and planning on showing up for the beginning of training camp because you are in the best shape of your career, your knee's fine, and you're ready to play football. Period. I think this is also one of those situations where the people close to him are telling you, too, that there's something not right here with him. TJ Hushmanzada, who was his mentor, his coach, personal coach and guru. Remember, he said some things a few months back that were not very flattering. Once again, he said some stuff over the weekend after the latest Brandon Ayuk videos. You'll hear what he said when we return. In the meantime, I do want to open up calls. Sure, why not? 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. After another 4 or 5 videos and reports from over the weekend, especially for those of you that, were still in, on the show Friday or Thursday, whenever the last time we took calls on it was, where are you now? I'm out. And I loved the player, and I want another weapon offensively because I want my team to win. But this is a case of the juice definitely at this point doesn't look worth the squeeze. 301-230-0980, Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com.
It's a big ass white man at the house. I don't know what he doing over there. He was not invited. Creepy. So if you on your way home, probably just spin the block a few times because I don't know what bro on.
That was Brandon Ayuk's long video on Saturday talking about John Lynch coming over to his house. He told his wife not to show up. The home invader was outside getting ready to bust in, apparently. And yeah, that's where we are. Long video from Saturday. Lots of other videos from Brandon Ayuk. Yeah, I'm done. I mean, I am out. I certainly a few weeks ago wanted Brandon Ayuk and kept thinking about, can you imagine Ayuk and Terry and Chig and then the new guy and the back, like that's exciting to me. Now, we needed to know that his medical was okay. We needed to know that the decisions he made that led to the 49ers being able to void guaranteed dollars in his contract, which is unprecedented. I mean, obviously, you want the team to make sure that you're not getting a guy that's nuts or that just has terrible judgment, but it was going to be worth it for a one-year prove-it deal where there was no risk for the team. At this point, no chance. Don't need the show. And for me, it's come down to the bottom line is he hasn't done anything to action-wise. He's talked a lot, but there's been no actions that have made me or convinced me anyway that he's interested in making himself available. Because instead of facing his employer back during OTAs, instead of filing for reinstatement, which he has to do before he can return to the team, he has spent the last 3 weeks ripping every professional relationship he's had in the last few years. To me, it's a sign that he is way too thin-skinned. My guy, Hal in Bethesda, so you're taking the 49ers off the hook? No, I didn't do that. I don't know what the 49ers did to make him feel this way. All right, there's his side, her side, truth is somewhere in between. And I'm sure the truth is somewhere in between. I can only judge on how he's handling this adversity. Not well. And that's a reveal for me. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out and what the 49ers do, but they don't have to do anything if he doesn't take action. He says he's not going back to Cali because he's going to duck the arrest warrant. Well, I'm pretty sure they have their training camp in California. He's got to apply for reinstatement, has to do that. And again, the advice would be, look, shut up, file for reinstatement, tell the 49ers you're going to be at training camp in the best shape of your in your life because you're ready to play football and you've missed it dearly. All right. I told you that I would play the TJ Hushmanzada sound for you. We're up against a hard break, so I'm going to take the break. We'll come back, but it's his mentor. It was his personal wide receiver guru that weighed in with the latest thoughts from him on Brandon Ayuk. You'll hear it next. If you want to jump in on the phone lines and talk about Brandon Ayuk, 301-230-0980. Phone lines are open. Have at it. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com. From Sydney writes, Kevin, at this point, the 49ers should just trade their own 7th-round pick and Ayuk to an AFC team for nothing. Yeah, but then they would be stooping at that point. By the way, you can't trade somebody on a reserve left squad list. Nothing can happen until he applies for reinstatement to the 49ers roster. He has to do that with the league. That's why I'm saying this isn't a serious person right now. And that's why, more than anything else, I'm just kind of out. Like, he talks about wanting to be and play for the burgundy and gold. I'm glad he got the colors right. The colors are back. And yet none of his actions indicate that. The actions are somebody who is outrageously thin-skinned and hypersensitive to whatever he was done to him, and all he's focused on is ripping every professional person in his life over the last few years. The talent, it's absolutely a real thing. If it weren't, we wouldn't be talking about him. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980 if you want to weigh in on Brandon Ayuk. Where are you at this point? I'm out. I'm done. Too sensitive for me, too thin-skinned, not enough action. Sure, second chances. Somebody's going to give him a second chance. Of course they are. Of course they are. But there is the dynamic with Jaden Daniels that at this point I might actually be concerned about the pressure that would be on Jaden to make it work for Brandon Ayuk. The pressure that would be on Adam Peters at this point, because 2 months or a month ago, there aren't a lot of questions. There's some, but not as many. Now it's like you're going out on a limb to sign this person. You better be right. And yeah, there's not a lot of risk in it, but still there's a lot of activity and a lot of dust kicked up around it. This was TJ Houshmandzadeh. If you recall, TJ Houshmandzadeh on his podcast Speakeasy back in March spoke out against Brandon Ayuk, a guy that he was mentoring and was coaching as a former wide receiver in the NFL. He was considered to be Ayuk's personal coach and kind of a major advocate going back to 2024 for Brandon Ayuk during his contract negotiation with the 49ers. But in March, he said basically, if you sign him or if you trade for him, beware. He said what he did last year is kind of crazy. You got all this guaranteed money and you ain't showing up. You're getting fined and you basically forego, what was it, like $30 million? Like, if you're a team and you give him a good contract, is that what you're going to get? Because this is what he has shown us, closed quote. That was a few months ago. TJ Houshmandzadeh, after the latest round of episodes of the Brandon Ayuk special, weighed in over the weekend on his former client.
He might not step foot in an NFL stadium again if he don't shut the up. Like, what is he doing? Like, Adam Peters, Adam Peters. You sign Brandon Ayuk, the Commanders should fire you the day you sign him. Do it. Like, what are you thinking? What makes y'all any different than the San Francisco 49ers? You don't think he gonna do to you what he's doing to them? Like, I don't understand this. If I'm Jaden Daniels, BA is my boy. If it doesn't work out, is he still gonna be my boy? So do I even want to see if it will work out? Because I may ruin a relationship over sports. And so I don't know, like, what's going on. I don't know why he's doing these things. But as players, as a former player, and as players that are watching this that are current players, bro, the NFL is rolling with or without you. Get your ass on the bus and enjoy the ride, or get your ass off.
Yeah. Look, TJ Houshmandzadeh is part of a significant majority of people that have been close to him in some shape or form over the last few years that have moved away from him. That's an indication. Kittle, very sarcastic in, sure, see how it works out for you. Dante Whitner, 49ers podcast, former 49ers player, thought he was mentally unstable when he came on with us a few months back. TJ Houshmandzadeh has been his personal coach and was a major advocate for this player just a few years ago. Says he's may not, if he doesn't get his ass in gear, ever play for anybody. Look, I've as a fan of the league, somebody's going to give him a chance at some point. But he has not helped himself here. And two, I think the larger part of Houshmandzadeh's message, do something to get yourself back out onto the field. Shut up, file for reinstatement, get in shape, maybe he is already, and tell the Niners you're showing up for day one of camp. Get the arrest warrant behind you, the misdemeanor charge behind you, and do something. And stop showing and revealing that you're too hypersensitive to deal with adversity, no matter what the adversity is at this point. All right, 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Again, my position is almost what TJ Houshmandzadeh is to the letter. It is, I'm done. Like, I'm out. As much as I want our team, I'd be looking at Diggs so hard right now. Come on, Stephon Diggs. Join Terry, Jaden, some of the pieces we put on the field, so the new coordinator. It's an offense that'll be good for you, good for Jaden. We got some defensive help. We got a chance, if we can keep, everybody healthy, of having a big bounce back year. I'd go get Diggs. I mean, at least he's played recently. At least he's a gamer. At least he will face, when this is not somebody that's tremendously thin-skinned. Now, he's had his own issues, for sure. And maybe he is too thin-skinned personally. I don't know. But for me, it's like, the dude doesn't really either understand or want to be back out there. Because if that was the only thing that mattered, or the thing that mattered the most, he'd be taking action to make that happen. And he hasn't. 301-230-0980. Let's go to our guy, Joe. Joe, go ahead.
Good morning, Kevin.
Hey, Joe, how are you?
I'm doing well. I've kind of been on it, off it, but I got to tell you, Kevin, the talent is just so tantalizing with him. And I come back to what you've been saying for the last several weeks, which is if he's healthy, if he's mentally, not crazy.
Joe, we gotta dump your phone. You're gonna have to call back. But let me just say, what I was saying for a couple of weeks, if he's physically healthy and he's mentally stable, I would absolutely do it. The 1 year prove it deal. No, I'm off that now. I don't really want the circus in town with this guy. There's too much that is. Imagine it doesn't work out. Imagine if Jaden's trying so hard for it to work out, and then he goes scorched earth, not only on Adam Peters and Josh Harris and Dan Quinn, but the quarterback as well. Like, you've already seen a big character reveal. I mean, he will go scorched earth on you if you, in any way diss him. So I don't want that as part of the program here. This is a program that's turned around significantly from a culture standpoint, and I want to continue with that. And, yeah, the talent is tantalizing. I love the player. It's funny how many of you literally fought back a couple of years ago when I said I actually think he's better than Terry, and now all of a sudden you're desperate for him. Look, Terry is a grown-up. This guy is not. At least his behavior doesn't indicate that he is. I think the team needs great players. And again, I've said this many times, immaturity and crazy are not disqualifiers in the NFL, but there's too much smoke here. There's too much, this is telegraphing what's going to happen to you once it goes south, because it will eventually. EJ, go ahead.
Good morning, Kevin. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I just want to say with the Ayuk situation, it's kind of weird to me that how people will say he's crazy or all this, and when we don't know what really happened because he said it was something between him and Shanahan. But the man is making videos and about the 49ers who he have a beef with, and people have all this problem with him like he's a criminal, but you voted for Donald Trump, and he runs your country, and he's a 35 time.
EJ, you're making this into something like the truth will do. All right, I haven't heard one person in my sphere on this show or in social media accuse him of being a criminal. There is an arrest warrant out, but I've minimized the nature of the actual charge. I mean, there have been 4 domestic violence cases since San Francisco's Santa Clara County issued that arrest warrant for a misdemeanor for traffic violation. What I have said is it's not the brightest thing in the world to videotape yourself doing it and then post it on social media. But the truth will do here. You know, the truth will do in a lot of areas of our life because the exaggeration and the hyperbole is usually what really drives the emotion. But what else do you have, EJ? Where are you? Do you want him or not?
Yes, I do. And I'll give him a chance because he also said that Mike Shanahan said something bad to him. They said Lynch was over there to apologize for what Shanahan talking to him.
Kyle Shanahan.
He said, what
Kyle is the coach.
And Kyle Shanahan, and he said, what do I supposed to beat him up? He said, no, but he's talking crazy because he know he can. And we all know the Shanahans are some arrogant, disrespectful people. And he said
who you can find many more players who have loved playing for both of them than not. Yes. By the way, I would never describe Mike that way. Mike actually had a slightly different personality than Kyle. Kyle was pretty fond of himself. Mike was a little bit more self-deprecating, believe it or not. EJ, thanks. Let's go to Aveen. Aveen, where are you today on Brandon Ayuk?
Hey, Kevin. So I do think that the odds of Ayuk coming here have gone down just because, you know, he's saying on video that he's not going to step foot in that building no matter how long it takes. And he's calling people Adam Peters used to work with, you know, creeps. So I'm not sure how Adam Peters feels about that. But yeah, I'm still in on this. You know, I'm thinking, you know, maybe we aren't, you know, we don't have a sense of urgency feeling with the receiver position. Maybe we're not thinking, oh my God, we need one of Ayuk or Diggs. Maybe they're just waiting this out and see what happens, and seeing if Ayuk does show up or not. And I don't know, my own gut feeling is, and it's turning into a big if, but if Ayuk did show up, you know, at the beginning of training camp, the Niners cut him and we got him. My own gut feeling is still that it would be okay. Like, he would come here and he would be a happy camper and he'd be happy to be playing football again. And you would have Ben standing on your show and he'd be saying, yeah, he's saying all the right things and he's going in and out of the practice bubble with Jaden Daniels before and after practice, getting thousands of reps in. And, you know, I don't know what would happen where it would all blow up immediately. And if he's out there,
I think that's a really, really good point, because I'm following along with your vision, right? Your projection of how it would go. And that's exactly how I feel it would go too. Like, somehow, you know, they'd bring him in, they'd sign him. He'd say all the right things. They would say all the right things. You know, the idea of the two of them walking into the bubble, walking out of the bubble, being there early, staying late. Oh my God, he's been a dream. I could see all of that taking place. And then I could see a really good season from him. I also could see the minute that there's any level of adversity. Well, let me back up. I could also see everybody walking on eggshells around him, which is not really what you want. Whenever you're around super sensitive people, there is a bit of eggshell tapping, you know, as you're walking around. So I don't know if that's the best thing. I also don't know if it's going to be the best situation for Jaden, where he's going to feel like if it doesn't go well for him and I have the ability to make it go well for him, maybe at the expense of something else, then there for the grace of God go I, in terms of him turning on me and the organization. I think he's already revealed that any adversity, and maybe it's significant adversity, and we're going to find out that the 49ers literally were about to home invade him. And go after him physically or something. Who knows? Or the agent was hitting on his wife. I don't know what all that is about. I don't, because he wasn't specific about all of that. But I think that the reveal is he's super sensitive, super thin-skinned, and you're going to have to walk around on eggshells to make sure that what happened over the last few months doesn't happen here. And yes, I think it's possible you could go 4, 5, 6, 7 months or a year or two without offending him. But eventually you're going to offend him, whether it's sooner or later. And I don't know if that risk is worth it.
Okay. I'll say, the 49ers did get 4 good seasons out of him without much trouble.
2 unbelievable seasons, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And,
yeah.
And,
look, they ended up paying him a 4-year, $120 million contract. Put him in the top 10. Put him in the top 6, right? Top 6 or 7 in terms of average annual at that moment.
Yeah. I'll just end by saying, the risk you're saying, I'm not sure it's there with, Jane Daniels feeling any pressure. I think if the offense is good next season, and it won't matter whether Ayuk works out or not. Like, if Jaden Daniels is still good next season, the offense is good, then that'll be the story. It won't be Brandon Ayuk, and they can just cut him.
My hope would be that ultimately they have a number 2 receiver on the field that's as good as Ayuk. And if it's him, I'll be thrilled. I'll be cheering for it. But we also can't throw away the last 6 months to a year, and specifically the last 3 weeks, which were revealing of character flaws at the very least. At the very least. Thank you, Aveen. Appreciate that. Mark and Largo, go ahead.
Adam, look, Kevin, this is not about Brandon Ayuk. This is about your buddy, Adam Peters, who has completely failed at getting wide receiver help for Jaden Daniels. Completely failed at this, okay? That we're sitting up here talking about Stephon Diggs, and we're talking about Brandon Ayuk. And here's the reality of the situation. Drake May has an all around him. Bo Nix, everyone in this draft class has a much better receiving core than we have. Much better. And it's not even close. Not even close.
Yeah.
That we're sitting up here talking about Brandon Ayuk and Stephon Diggs because our general manager decided, okay, I'm going to coddle Luke McCaffrey and I'm going to coddle Ben Sinnott, but we're going to do on the cheap for getting receivers. Oh, and by the way, I'm a strong-arm Terry McLaurin. It's okay if you want to strong-arm Terry McLaurin, everything of what you were saying last year, but you better have a plan B.
Okay, so you've addressed why we're in this position based on how you feel. What about Ayuk specifically?
Hell no. No. What Adam Peters needs to do between now and the trading deadline, he better swing for the fences and get himself a receiver through trade.
Who?
That's what he needs to do.
Who?
Damn Ayuk, damn Diggs.
Okay, who? Who's the receiver you got to swing big for?
Let me say this too. If they go 9-8 and Jaden plays the entire season, they go 9-8 and they don't make the playoffs, Adam Peters should be fired. And they should go get a GM from Philadelphia. Someone who knows how to build teams.
I know. Will you just if he doesn't get himself a top flight wide receiver between now and the trade deadline, who do you have in mind that he should go get?
I would go get DK Metcalf. I'll do whatever I can to get DK Metcalf.
Is DK Metcalf available? Didn't the Steelers just sign him to a deal? Don't the Steelers want him?
You can get him. You can also get Jared Jeudy from Cleveland.
Jerry Jeudy. Right. That's your answer? Jerry Jeudy?
Well, I mean, you don't have.
You just said you got to go get yourself a top flight receiver.
Well, not a top flight, but you got to get some adequate receivers. Kevin, what do we have? Look, I love De'Ami Brown, and I think the mere fact that he's bringing De'Ami Brown.
Wait, hold on for 1 second. DK Metcalf's not available. Okay. I guess if the Steelers. Yeah, look, it's possible. You're right. There are receivers that could be available during the season by trade deadline that we're not thinking of. But in terms of right now, we know that Alec Pierce and Romeo Dobbs were big in free agency. They swung for both of them and missed.
They should have overpaid for Dobbs. He should have overpaid for Dobbs.
Well, Dobbs does have a voice in where he ends up when you're an unrestricted free agent.
Well, that's true too. And maybe Adam Peterson. I agree. But look, I mean, I just think you can go get a Jared Judy right now. You can go get a Keon Coleman right now. Get something, man.
You want Keon Coleman?
I mean, you got to throw this out there for.
I can't believe you haven't hit me with your favorite, Thomas Jr.
No, because that's going to have to wait till the end of the season. And truth be told, I don't want – look, if they go 9-8, I don't expect Adam Peters to be here at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Because, look, Kevin, I think there's a real issue. Let me ask you something, Kevin. I said this on Chris's show last week, and I've been saying this for the last month. You can say whatever you want to say. Do you think he's going after Brandon Ayuk to pacify Jaden because Jaden may be a little bit disappointed about how Cliff Kingsbury was let go?
No. I don't.
Interesting how you didn't see that Cliff Kingsbury was going to get fired at the end of last year, and I saw it coming up all last.
You've got all your wins. You've got them all written down. You just don't have all of your L's. You kind of always forget your L's when you resume. And nobody asked you for your resume anyway.
Alex are coming.
Nobody asked you for your resume.
I got more L's than I have wins. I know that.
Jerry Judy, he said. All right. Look.
Going to the last year of his deal, Kev.
The one that I am keeping track of is that Alex Sarr is going to end up being better than Wembanyama. That's the one.
What about Keon Coleman?
What about Keon Coleman? No, he apparently is not a big worker. He's not very good right now.
He loves cookies.
Who doesn't love cookies? All right.
Kevin, he's got to do something.
I know. Wait, he's tried. He went for Alec Pierce. He went for Romeo Dobbs.
Well, you know what, Kevin?
He drafted somebody. I think if Carnell Tate had been there, I think Tate might be on the team.
Kevin,
but he was gone.
You went to your supervisor and constantly complained about how much you tried to do this and do that.
Yeah.
And your ratings are still low. How much would you be employed?
Look, context is everything. Everything, man. You know, I mean, there is always nuance and context around anything. If they go 9-8 and they miss the postseason, because they didn't have another receiver, I think there's some truth to. We are certainly going to be talking about Adam Peters being on the hot seat for not adding another wide receiver. But it's not like he looked at the problem and said, we don't need one. Alec Pierce was free agent number 1 that they were going after. So it's not like he didn't identify the problem. He identified a lot of problems on defense, and there are like 6 new starters on defense. What if they go 9-8 and have a top 10 defense because of all the new players?
Got to fire Adam Peters. But here's the deal, man. Look.
What did he say?
The reality of the situation is this, Kevin, okay?
I gotta go.
Dan Quinn has taken 2 different teams to a title game.
Right.
An NFC title game.
Well, one to a Super Bowl.
In his career.
Yeah.
Right. And 1 to a Super Bowl. So Adam, I tell everybody, Dan Quinn ain't going nowhere. Dan Quinn is not the problem. And that's why I tell a lot of people, Dan Quinn wasn't the one that got rid of Cliff Kingsbury. Adam Peters did. Adam Peters wanted to get rid of Cliff Kingsbury.
I disagree with that. Because in terms of if you think that was the only reason they did it, and he was the only one that wanted to do that, I disagree with that. And in fact, I know that that's not accurate. But I got to go. You're always a pleasure to have on the show. Thank you for calling Mark and Largo. He's become one of my favorites. Your boy, Adam Peters, my boy. I do like Adam Peters. I think Adam Peters is doing a fine job. I really do. And I wish that he had landed on one of the. By the way, I'm actually glad they didn't land on Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce is okay, but he wasn't worth that kind of money. I didn't think. I think the guy that they may regret not just saying, yes, it's an overpay, but it's worth it, is Tyler Linderbaum. Nobody saw that money coming. But Tyler Linderbaum was a true A-level, A-plus level player. And you had a need. That's the one that if they have trouble at center this year, I'm going to look back and say, you know what? You kind of overpaid for Kinlaw. Some people think you overpaid for Oweh. I don't. You should have overpaid for Linderbaum. The money went crazy. No one saw that coming. The money went nuts. But he would have been on a short list of A-plus level players on the football team. I want more of those. Stay on the phone if you're there, 301-230-0980. I know we got into a lot of other things like we usually do with Mark and Largo, but the question still is, Brandon Ayuk, your latest thoughts after all of the recent videos. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com. From D Reds, calling Ayuk crazy or hypersensitive because he decided to stand on principles instead of money is beyond your comprehension, because you obviously would let your boss treat you however, as long as you're getting paid. Not however, definitely not however. I'm not going to let myself get trampled regardless of what I'm getting paid. But I do understand an employee-employer relationship, and I would never, if I were interested in working again in the same industry or with somebody else, I would not rip my employer publicly. I would face them and try to resolve whatever the issues were. He hasn't done that. No action from him at all. By the way, somebody pointed out to me that I guess the second video message that we played where he said that he fired his agent last November, that actually is not true. No, Ryan Williams was not fired by Brandon Ayuk in November. You have to let the league and the Players Association know that you are terminating the Standard Representative Agreement, the SRA. And that was active as of the video that he put out on Friday or Saturday. And then on Saturday, it looks like Ayuk terminated officially his relationship with his agent. So when his agent was asked back in February or March, whenever it was, what's up with Brandon Ayuk? And he said, look, I don't, or with your client, he said, I haven't been able to reach him. He didn't suggest that he wasn't his agent anymore or that he was, but technically he still was until Saturday. Look, that may be a good sign if you want Ayuk to file for reinstatement, because he figured out, I guess on his own, with maybe the help of the NFLPA, on how to terminate officially the relationship he has with his agent. Now what he needs to do is quickly petition the league through the filing for reinstatement to get off the reserved left squad list so that he can actually show up for training camp in July. I think a lot of S is going to happen between now and then. All right. Lap's been on hold. Lap, thanks for holding. Go ahead.
Hey, what's up, Kevin?
How are you?
Thank you, man. I'm still at a maybe with Brandon Ayuk, only because I trust Jaden. Now he's doing Ayuk is doing some wild stuff, bro. Yeah, it make you question. He still got to be a professional. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if he has an agent or his agent is fine, but he need to get some representation to work this out, and he don't have to deal with him. But I know you said if he a while back, if he report to camp, that'd probably be his easiest out. I still don't see nobody's talking about Debo. I know they're out on Debo, but I like Debo, and I think Debo should be considered more and be respected more than what people are giving. Stephon Diggs definitely, and I told Max I would deal with Cardi B right now than with this stuff going on with Brandon Ayuk for sure. I'll deal with Cardi B, but Stephon Diggs is a dog. I believe he wants to be here, and I agree with you, Kevin. If Carnell Tate, that's why I really wanted Carnell Tate, because I don't think we would be in this problem we having right now. If he was, hey, let me ask you.
Let me just say that I think that Carnell Tate and Brandon Ayuk, before we got to the draft, we considered both of them a possibility, that it wasn't one or the other. We've had that conversation about Diggs and Ayuk. But yeah, look, the team right now, there's nothing for the team to do. Washington can't do anything. This is all between Brandon Ayuk and the 49ers. And nothing happens until Brandon Ayuk takes some action. And I'm not talking about another video, if you consider that to be action. I'm talking about filing for reinstatement into the league, off the reserve left squad list. That has to happen, or nothing else can happen. And he says he's not going back to California to face the arrest warrant. So they're not going to move training camp to wherever he is to accommodate him. We know that. Thanks, Lap. Let's go to Joe. Joe, sorry about that. Hopefully the phone's better. Go ahead.
Hey, Kevin. How you doing, man?
Good
morning. I called earlier to say, that basically I find the talent of Brandon Ayuk too tantalizing to pass up on, especially if, as you have said, Washington does their due diligence and make sure he's healthy, mind, body, and spirit, so to speak. But with the kind of deal that he's talking himself into, I don't really see a risk, and the upside it so much outweighs any kind of risk of Brandon Ayuk. And I'm not saying the guy is put together all right, but I mean, as the other caller brought up, we all know Kyle can be kind of a, douche or whatever. And the fact is
yeah, but
I'd be pretty bent out of
we
shape
say
if
that,
my
but the
last
players that have
employer
played for him, including Deebo Samuel, they all respect the hell out of him. There's never been an issue like this with Kyle.
Respected that I didn't like, and I'm sure you have too, right? And like I
wait, say that again, Joe. Say that again. Sorry.
I said that you and I have probably worked for people that other employees thought the sun shined out of their rear end, and we couldn't stand them. Right?
I know.
I mean, we've all been there.
But he's by himself on this because Kyle is highly respected by the players who have played for him.
Stuff about Kyle before. I mean,
I'm sorry.
We've heard bad stuff about Kyle before.
No, the personal experience. He's definitely very, very confident in himself. There's no doubt about it. By the way, the results back it up. But give me an example other than with Drake. Who's the player I'm forgetting that literally walked off the field in the middle of a game? Max. Who was that player?
Antonio Brown?
No, he didn't coach Antonio Brown. Whatever.
That played for Shanahan.
You can find, and people have been putting it out for a couple of weeks now, even the players that had disagreements with him, they speak incredibly respectfully and of him as a coach, as a leader, and everything else, including, by the way, Deebo Samuel, who won it out, but in his exit from San Francisco had nothing but incredibly respectful and high praise for Kyle Shanahan. So this is
maybe he wasn't being honest,
again, the truth will do. Maybe he's
a
bit of an a-hole at times. Maybe he's a bit too fine of himself. But the 49ers organization's been pretty buttoned up with some high-quality players and high-quality teams.
I'm not going to disagree with that. I'm just saying in this situation, this player and this coach obviously didn't head it off. And then for Lynch to show up at his house, I wouldn't have appreciated that.
Why?
Certainly.
Why not?
Because
what was John Lynch doing? Joe, stop.
We don't know what he was doing.
Why would you? First of all, why was John Lynch going to his house? Do you know the answer to that?
We don't know.
I don't know either. So how would you say that you wouldn't want him showing up at your house when you don't know the reason he was coming there?
Well,
what if it was just to check on him?
I can say
what if it was to apologize for something?
Maybe he did, and maybe it's too late, and maybe, that's just it. Again, I'm not taking up for Brandon Ayuk. I'm saying that, like you said, somewhere in the middle here, we're finding the truth. And all of this
if we ever find it at all. Yeah.
Right. And all of this stuff is all just noise. The fact of the matter is,
it's not noise. It's not noise. I totally disagree with it. It's revealing. It's revealing. The only person we're hearing from is Brandon Ayuk. It's revealing of him. He's not professional. He's not mature, and he's thin-skinned. These are easy conclusions to come to over the last few weeks.
Before.
I'm sorry?
We've seen that with great players in Washington before.
Okay, what's your point? We're talking about Brandon Ayuk.
With ourselves. Dexter Manley.
You said it's all noise. It's not all noise. In my opinion, it's not all noise.
Said that it would if this was happening in week 6 of the NFL season, it wouldn't even be getting much of a blip on the radar.
Well, because the games matter. But how's the relevance, Your Honor?
But I'm just saying, at the end of the day, all of this stuff is beside the point of will Brandon Ayuk make the Washington Commanders a better football field in 2026 based on what we've seen on the field? And the answer to that question can only be yes.
No, that's not true either. I would lean yes. But we don't know about his physical conditioning. We don't know about his knee. There's a lot of reasons after 2 years off, you may not get the player you're getting. Joe, I got to move on, man. You just keep talking. Let's go to Bay. Bay, go ahead. Bay, before you start, I would lean in the direction of, the talent is tantalizing the last time we saw it. It'll be nearly 2 years the next time he steps on a field. Maybe if TJ Houshmandzadeh's onto something he may never step on an NFL field. I mean, these last 3 weeks may have essentially crossed him off the list as undraftable, unsignable. Who knows? There's a lot we don't know, clearly, but it's not a guarantee that if he steps on the field, you're going to have greatness. That's why going into it, I would never have done a deal that put the team at risk of dead money if it didn't work out physically or mentally. We don't know that for sure. I do know this, and it is true. When he played in 2023, at the end of 2023, through the postseason, he was a top 10 receiver in the league and ascending. There's no doubt about that. Bay, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin, thanks for taking my call. Max, what's up with you, man? Kevin, I'm not totally all out on Ayuk, and this is the reason why. If we did get him, he has to sit out the entire season, go and get all his affairs together, and I would sign Diggs, or if there's any wide receiver that I would trade it for, it would definitely be Thomas Jefferson, Jr. Down in Jacksonville. So that's the only way that I would.
Wait, hold on, Bay. Let me hold on. What did you say, that you would sign him as long as he stayed out the entire season?
No.
Is that what you said?
No. I'm talking. I would take him. He has to. The season is washed. I need you to get all your affairs together. These are the things we need you to do in order for us to sign you the following season. And outside that, I would sign Diggs. That's what I would do.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I don't know what. I don't think Brandon Ayuk's going to sit around if there's another opportunity. Maybe there wouldn't be, but I can't imagine Adam Peters saying, "We're not interested in you today. We might be interested in you before 2027 if you get your S together." I mean, maybe that's what he would say. I hear you, but I'm kind of with you on. I would love to see Stephon Diggs in a Skins uniform next year. I would like to see that. And at this, I didn't think that 3 weeks ago. I was much more into the upside of Ayuk. But now, to me, it's the juice ain't worth the squeeze from my standpoint.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bay. Appreciate it. Abdul in California. Go ahead, Abdul.
Hey, what's up, Kevin?
How are you?
I'm doing well. So what I would say is absolutely not. I don't want him on the team. And it was funny at first. I definitely wanted him. And I think like it was more like a 60-40 split with the fans. But then after he kept on posting, I think it's starting to decrease. I think it's more like a 20-80 split now. And the reason why I don't want him on the team is because I think he's bringing more trauma to the actual fan base on our side than it is on the San Francisco side. And meaning because in San Francisco, they're already done with him. They already said they're done with him. It's just a matter of when. But what he's doing is putting himself in a predicament where he's making himself undesirable to any team within the league. And I believe that he's the type of person that because Jaden Daniels hasn't publicly spoken up for him, he's the type of person that'll start bad-mouthing him when things go awry, when he can't get on the team. So I'm done with that guy. I don't want him.
Yeah. Thanks for the call. The truth is in all of this, and this is something I've been consistent on saying, we just don't have enough information. But he's giving us some information about him for sure. And he's giving us one side of the story here recently in terms of what happened, although specific to why John Lynch was coming by his house or why his agent texted his wife, no specifics, obviously. And, there's another side to that story, even if we got the specifics. The bottom line at this point is he hasn't shown the inclination to follow up all of these videos with, I want to play football. I have filed for my reinstatement. My knee's been checked out. I've been getting in shape, and I'm reporting to the 49ers. I've reached out to the ownership, to John Lynch, to Kyle Shanahan to have a sit down with me and my new agent, or just with me, to talk through what's happened and to talk through the next steps. He's got to make that happen. They don't have to do anything right now. They don't have to do anything. He's not reinstated. He's on the reserved left squad list. As far as they're concerned, he is still missing in action. And I have no idea with as it relates to his contract. That would actually be some interesting reporting to know that if it's continued throughout the course of the last several months, where contractually he was supposed to come in and get his knee checked, even on this list. I have a feeling the answer is no, because the reason they put him on this list is he stopped showing up for what he was supposed to show up for. Hence the voiding of the guarantees. And now there's a lot of talk that the team could actually be in position to go after some of the old money. Good luck on that. That's like any of those situations. Once it's paid, stand in line and talk to my attorneys. But I don't even know if he has one of those at this point. All right. There is some interesting news about the NBA and the Wizards and the player they acquired just a few months ago. It's next. Ben Standig coming up at noon. We'll get his thoughts on, that guy, Ayuk. Man, he was good in 23. And there were no issues with him. That's the one thing that keeps coming through because he does not have much support from people around him. We played the TJ Houshmandzadeh stuff. But if you go back and you read what Houshmandzadeh said in March, even though he was critical of Ayuk, and he said, buyer beware, he said, this is all new stuff for a lot of people around Brandon Ayuk. We'll find out maybe the real story one day. Somebody's going to write about this as a chapter in some sort of book on the 49ers or Shanahan or whatever. So how about this news, people? Shams Charania, ESPN, tweeted out a little while ago that the Golden State Warriors, Draymond Green of the Golden State Warriors is declining his player option, which is $27.7 million for 2026, 2027, to become a free agent. But the reason he's doing that is that the move will give the Warriors flexibility to pursue LeBron James and Anthony Davis via a trade. Kevin O'Connor, Yahoo Sports. The Warriors are attempting to trade for Wizards big Anthony Davis and then sign Lakers free agent forward LeBron James, according to multiple league sources. A trade for Davis would have to include Jimmy Butler, who is on an expiring $57 million contract while recovering from a torn ACL. The Warriors would also have to include draft capital. They have 2 future firsts and 4 first-round swaps to work with in any deal. Sources say the Warriors hope adding Davis would help lure LeBron from L.A. to the Bay Area once free agency officially opens on Tuesday. The pitch would be simple. Reunite with AD, team up with Steph Curry and Draymond Green, play for Steve Kerr, and chase one more championship with a roster of legends. Okay. I mean, my immediate reaction to that is I just want the Wizards to be better sooner. And the only way that happens is if Anthony Davis becomes an available player health-wise and the player that he once was. If that were to happen this upcoming season with him on the Wizards roster, with Trae Young, with all of the young players, with the addition of A.J. DeBonsa, I could see a team that ends up in the playoffs. Not in the play-in, but the playoffs, like a top 6 seed. If he's not a big part of what they do next year because he got traded, well, you're going to have some bad seasons moving forward until it either comes together with all of the young players or it doesn't. Now, that may be the way to go too. Relying on Anthony Davis is obviously not very smart because of his injury history, but they did trade for him. They didn't give up a lot to get him because his value wasn't great. And I'm wondering how if the Wizards end up with a net positive on the trading for and the trading of Anthony Davis, yeah, there's a little bit of chess and checkers there. But, getting Jimmy Butler at this point, I'm a huge Jimmy Butler fan. I love Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is now entering his 15th. How old is Jimmy Butler? He's 36, 37 years old, coming off a torn ACL. By the way, disappeared a little bit in the postseason. The one postseason he did play with Golden State during.
37.
He's going to be 37?
Yeah.
I mean, who plays next to Sarr? Do you get Lendenberg back, their first round pick?
And that's the thing. That's what people keep throwing around. Is like Yaxel would be the logical piece in this trade if you're going to go with Jimmy Butler,
the Michigan
and picks.
Forward who was a big part of their national championship run, who was drafted. He's 24 years old.
He's 24.
Yeah. And he was drafted by the Warriors, top 10, right? 10th or 11th?
Yeah, 11.
Something like that. I mean, if the Wizards ended up with Jimmy Butler on an expiring contract, Lendenberg and a couple more first rounders, they gave up Middleton, Bagley, and one first round pick for Davis. I got to pull up that. They gave up the pick that they had from OKC this year in the first round, plus a protected first rounder in 2030. I don't even know what the protection rules are going to be with the new lottery rules. So there's some things to figure out there. I don't know. I know that it was wishful thinking. I totally agree with all of you that have said to me, you are absolutely delusional if you think Anthony Davis is going to have like a big year for Washington. Okay. Yeah, the odds are not in favor of him playing enough games to have a major impact because he's just always hurt. But if by chance he had one of those few seasons where he was available for a lot of games, they'd be a pretty good team next year. And it would be fun to watch a competitive and a potential playoff team rather than what we've watched for the last 9 years. All right, keep you posted on that. But that appears to be gaining steam in NBA circles. This actually today, in many ways, is as important as the beginning of free agency because you see teams setting themselves up for some of the moves that they want to make. And Draymond Green opting out of his deal gives the Warriors a chance to go sign LeBron and maybe trade for Anthony Davis. I'll tell you what, the Wizards should play major hardball and extract everything they can and end up with net positive on the trading for and the trading of Anthony Davis in about a 4-month period. Ben Standig next. Man, this has gotten a lot of traction here over the last 30 minutes. Anthony Davis, potentially a trade piece to Golden State to team up with LeBron James, who would sign there as a free agent, Steph Curry and Draymond Green, with the Wizards perhaps taking back Jimmy Butler and some picks. I'd take the kid from Michigan along with picks. The Wizards, if this is a team that wants to make one last run, you should be able to extract the highest amount from the Warriors and make the net of trading for Anthony Davis and then trading Anthony Davis be a major positive for the organization. Ben Standing's with us. Not only does he cover our football team, but he now has, as part of his Substack, which I would urge you to subscribe to for just a couple of bucks a month, he also now is covering the Wizards, which he used to do. We'll get to Ayuk. We'll get to football here in a moment. But what is your reaction to some of this? Shams, Kevin O'Connor, and others reporting that with Draymond opting out of his player option, that this is what the Warriors want to do. They want to reunite LeBron and Anthony Davis and team them up with Steph Curry and Draymond Green for a run to a title with a bunch of legends on their team next year.
Yeah. This was like sort of the speculation. Of course, everybody speculates what's LeBron going to do. And, there's different options. I kind of think the Spurs make a ton of sense for him. But in any event, putting together the Justice League in Golden State would be a lot of fun. And when Steve Kerr, who I guess had really contemplated retiring, when he came back, I'm like, okay, well, if he's coming back, they must be going to make a run, right? So what does that look like? This kind of reminds me, you said like extract a lot from the Warriors. A buddy of mine reminded me, this is kind of like when the Clippers wanted Kawhi, but Kawhi said, well, I'll go to you, but you got to get me Paul George because that, I don't want to just be myself. And then that's how OKC got a million draft picks and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and all that. So to a degree, if the plan is to get LeBron, and then they're like, okay, but we got to get Anthony Davis because, they don't really have a big man. Obviously, Anthony Davis, when he's healthy, I think is still one of the best 15, 20 players in the league. It's just obviously the health has been the issue. Then, that could make a lot of sense. What would the Wizards get? I don't know. I mean, you mentioned Yaxel, the kid from Michigan they just drafted. They have a bunch of their own picks. And the thing is, like, they didn't give up anything really to get Anthony Davis. I mean, look, they gave up two first-round picks in 3 seconds, and that sounds like a lot. Second-round picks don't mean anything in the NBA. It's just something to, an asset you have to do like this, a trade. And the first-round picks, one of them was already used. It was the 30th pick in this year's draft. The Wizards didn't need that, and then they have somebody else's pick down the line. It wasn't even their own pick. So they could easily get more back than they gave up in the first place. And then, and also Golden State, like if you do get Golden State's picks, it's actually a decent bet because even if they're down the line, at some point here, Steph Curry's not going to keep playing, right? I mean, 2 years from now, is Steph Curry and Draymond still playing? Even if they get LeBron and AD, are they still playing or around? So it's a good bet on a team that is going, it may be going for, but are not necessarily going to be good in a few years. So that, to me, also interesting. What I would just say is like my read is that, look, the Wizards would also be happy to keep Anthony Davis if the whole point of this season is to have the kids, go up a notch in terms of, making a run of the playoffs, learning how to win.
Yeah.
Then, and that's why I think people are a bit overreacting to the Trae Young deal, though I get it. But that's where Anthony Davis would come in. But simultaneously, I don't see them giving Anthony Davis an extension the way they just did Trae Young. Trae Young's 27, Anthony Davis is 33 and he's hurt. So if the extension is the driver, then him going elsewhere makes more sense. But I think they're in a good spot. They can keep him, and if somebody wants to wow them, I think they're more than willing to listen.
Yeah, I mean, if they end up again, what they traded for him, which was really not much because his value wasn't that great in the moment, and if they end up getting a net major positive on trading for him and then trading him, that's great for them. But it also, like you just said, it means that, next year, the year after, probably aren't going to be years in which, they're going to compete, they're going to try to win, but with a healthy Anthony Davis, and of course, that's a major if, and more likely than not would not have happened, but I could have envisioned, we've talked about this many times, a legitimate playoff team in the East. And I'm not just saying play in, I'm talking about a 44-win 6 seed. I could have seen with Davis playing 65 plus games, which is a big if. And that would have been a great environment to develop all of these young players in. If he's not a part of it, and I love Jimmy Butler too, but it's probably going to be a 30, it's not going to be a 17-win team, but it's probably going to be a 30-win team next year and maybe 35 the year after. And so we got to wait, another 3-4 years to find out if everything they've been doing really was what, really did constitute, a contending type of team. It would take more time.
Yeah, I don't imagine Jimmy Butler. He's recovering from a season-ending injury last year. I don't know what his timeline is to play. I would imagine he's eventually would get rerouted somewhere else, but that they need the money to make the deal. But yeah, you're right. Again, I think to go back to the Trae Young thing, I think my first reaction was, wow, they definitely overpaid for a guy who I'm not a huge fan of. But when you look at the bigger context, the point of Trae Young or Anthony Davis is not to win the title. It is, again, to go from being a team that won 50 games combined the last 3 years to being at least, in the discussion for the play in the postseason, whatever. And in that context, keeping Trae Young made a lot of sense. Somebody has to be the point guard. Who else? There's nothing else out there, and the money doesn't really matter. They have to pay somebody. Everybody on the roster is on a rookie contract, so nobody's getting paid. And then that's why Davis is the same thing. If he stays, great. When healthy, he's one of the 15 or 20 best players in the league. So that would be a huge boost. And I said, this isn't obviously the likely outcome, but if those guys play a reasonable amount and the kids improve at a reasonable pace like they did a year ago, I think they could be, their upside, I think, is like the 6th seed. Now, again, I'm not saying that's the likely outcome. The likely outcome is probably more in that playing game range and go from there. But that's with Davis, like you said. If not, now they would obviously then go out and get some kind of center. And there's a few guys who are out there, like your Robert Williams is.
Robert Williams.
Yeah, I'm blanking on some other guys. But, there's some guys. Nobody tremendous, but, enough there to be helpful when needed. So, yeah, so this is potentially the difference between the Wizards having really fun upside versus having less fun upside because of the kids. So it's sort of a no.
Well, there's another part of this too, because I was not a big fan of Trae Young either, but I could envision Trae Young with an Anthony Davis being a really intriguing two-man combination, point guard, big combination with the way a lot of NBA teams play. I think that actually they could have lifted each other in that relationship without that kind of player to play with Trae Young. You still have some of the young guys like Sarr, et cetera. But that made Young and overpaying Young, at least based on what it appears to be, okay with me. Without Anthony Davis, it doesn't seem okay. And you're right. I sort of implied this, but who knows if Jimmy Butler gets dealt here, if he actually plays here, because he may be on the move too with a 1-year, left deal. I don't know. Odd. I'm going to play. I had Will Dawkins on my podcast Friday, and I asked him about Anthony Davis, and all of you are going to hear that in about 15 minutes because I'm going to play it back. And he said the same thing that he has said, which is Anthony Davis wants to be here, and we want him to be here, and August is the opportunity for us to talk to him about a potential extension, and we're excited to have him. And now we'll see what happens today and tomorrow. All right. Anything else on the Wizards?
I just think that they are, again, if you keep context in check, I think they are in a very good space. If anybody's looking at them like, well, they don't have enough to contend this year, cool, but that's not the point. I understand, everybody wants your team to have a chance. That's one thing that's fun about the NFL, right? It feels like every year, maybe not Super Bowl, but we see teams as happened 2 years ago here, where a team can go from 0 to hero overnight if you have a quarterback and some things. That's not really the NBA, and they're not positioned for that, which is fine. They are in a great space. 7 first-round picks. They just got the number 1 guy in the draft in Devonta, and if they find ways to help these kids develop, I think they're in a really good spot going forward. And my biggest thing is with this, Kevin, is that similar to the Wizards and the Commanders, Redskins were very similar in this regard. That you could tell me any move that they made or any pick that they made was a pretty good one, but there was always the ceiling was always low in some ways, both because of ownership. Obviously the Commanders and Redskins, that was very blatant. The Wizards was less so, but Leonsis was focused on having them put together a team that was that could contend for at least the 8th seed rather than contend for a title. Plus, they made what's the most famous? The most famous series, the best series they had in the last 20 years was that going to Game 7 against the Celtics in the second round, and even that was hampered because they had that previous offseason they made the Jan Mahimi signing, Andrew Nicholson. Right. There was always something. This group, who knows? They got to win first. They got to play and win. But the ceiling here is sky high. I'm not saying they're a title team, but there's nothing blocking them the way it had been in the past. And I think that's the most exciting part right now.
Yeah, I'm just looking at, potential centers.
Mitchell Robinson's out there.
Hartenstein.
Hartenstein's going back to OKC.
Okay.
Like I said, there's nothing crazy, but look, if the Jimmy Butler deal gets rerouted, maybe they get somebody out of that. Sarr technically is the center, so maybe it's more like what power forwards are out there. I think they need at least one more big, even if Davis stays, because he's always hurt and they just have no depth there. And then if he goes, they need a couple. So the Trae Young part of it makes a lot more sense if you have somebody, some kind of rim runner for him to throw lobs to and things like that, not to mention a guy who's legit on his own.
I always liked Robert Williams when he was in Boston. Haven't followed a lot of them since. All right. Brandon Ayuk, the obligatory, there's so much more material. I think you wrote that we got the extended director's cut on Saturday, that 3-minute piece, where John Lynch apparently was going to stalk him and perhaps home invade. And we also had the text to his wife from his agent, who he actually did, according to reports, actually fire on Saturday officially. Go ahead. Brandon Ayuk. Been talking about him for an hour. Your turn.
Well, so, in terms of the fire of the agent now, because he keeps posting things and I'm not, staying on top of it every minute, I checked in with somebody at the NFLPA, and as of the first time he said that he had fired the guy and filed the paperwork, I was told that's not accurate, that he had not done anything. That's why the agent still shows up as his agent. Now, he may have said to him, we're done, but in terms of just the legal process, that had not been done. Could it happen since? Sure. This thing is, who knows what exactly is going on there. But, he posted something on his Instagram, sort of a shout out to the NFLPA, kind of like, hey, I'm sure there's some decent people over there, but some of you were, screwing me on, and sort of siding with the team and this, that, and the other. And, the impression that I get is just like everything else he's been saying, it's not accurate or not, there's more to it than he's letting on or whatever. So until obviously that gets resolved, plus he needs to, get reinstated by the league.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I was talking about it on my podcast yesterday, and maybe not like you, but I'm lamenting having to keep doing this. I'm like, can you imagine that the Niners won't open up camp for a month? So even if he wants to show up day one, first minute, everybody's open, we have to wait this long. He's putting up there are people who are legit social media influencers who post less than he does. And so if this keeps going, I don't know how I'm going to survive. But until it's just the fact that he keeps mentioning the Commanders. By the way, did you see the TJ Hushman?
Yeah, I played it earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. I saw. Yeah, and this is a guy who has I don't know, friends is the right word, but he was
most
his
people
receivers
close
coach.
to the situation or closer to the situation. He's got very little support, which is another tell on this. You know, whether it's the Dante Whitners or the George Kittles. I mean, Kittle basically very sarcastically said, yeah, go ahead, see how it works out for you. And Houshmandzadeh said something similar in March, but went much harder this time.
Yeah, much harder, basically telling Adam Peters he's crazy.
Yeah, said he should be fired if he signs him.
Yeah, and you know that's the part of this. I mean, you can tell me again, you know, the good receiver and all that, but like, what is to prevent him from doing to the Commanders what he is doing here? If there's a game where, you know, if they start the season against Philly and Dallas and he gets, you know, if he's here and gets, you know, 4 targets just for, you know, that happens sometimes. And then, you know, he's like, what the hell? And he's, you know, going to his buddy, the quarterback, where he's, you know, popping off on social media. Again, maybe he doesn't do any of these things, but that's the point. You don't know. The wild card element is just way, way strong for an unknown on the field. And, you know, again, say whatever you want about some of these other diva quarterbacks or diva receivers we've seen over the years. You know, this is like sort of a different level, in part because those people had agents and they had people advising them to basically shut the hell up or, you know, just let me handle the business aspect. Here, he's popping off, but there's no sense that there's anything happening behind the scenes to resolve this. I mean, put up in
go ahead. Sorry.
He put up in one of those videos, and again, it's hard to tell at some point with him, like, what's real and what's just trolling. But he said something like, hey, by the way, I heard I have a warrant. Is that true? I assume that is him being a troll or silly, but at the same point, I don't know. I don't know who's talking to him. I don't know what he thinks or knows. You know, he doesn't have an agent.
There's no way he didn't know that there was a warrant out for his arrest, and you know he's ducking Cali. By the way, the interesting piece of information in that piece of sound was he indicated that he was going to be involved in throwing with Jaden Daniels out in Cali, in California.
Oh, I missed that. If he said that one,
Max. Well, here I can give you the quote. He basically said, "Oh shoot, I think I just closed it out."
All right, but like,
yeah.
On a real serious note, though, can anybody tell me if I really have a warrant out for my arrest in California? Because my bro said he trying to throw in Cali. But if I got a warrant, bro, I'm about to stay out here.
My bro says he's going to throw in Cali. He's referring to Jaden Daniels there. I'm almost positive.
I mean, obviously, we know that Jaden Daniels is going to do that. And, you know, that was my attempt to.
Right. I mentioned it.
Ask about that. You know, again, like it's, you know, like people ask me, as I'm sure they do you know, about the industry, getting into it. What's the key, this, that, and the other. And everybody looks for the magic bullet. Like, how do I get from A to B quickly and all that? And my best answer is typically, you know what? You need to show up and you need to be reliable. Everything else will come into play. If you're actually talented enough, people will see it. And if you're reliable and stay with it, you will outlast the people who bail. But you got to be reliable, or if you're not reliable, you better be Shakespeare, right? You better be Frank the Ford, Tom Boswell, what have you. And that's why, to me, I'm like, I can't deal with this. You can tell me that all the guys they have on the team right now are just not enough. Okay, but I know they're going to be there, and that counts for a lot. Because ultimately, as we saw in 2024, you never know how it's all going to work out. Jaden Daniels, it's not like that group was much different than this group. And, you know, look what happened. So being there, being part of the team, you know, going through the exercises, you know, being a commander, all that matters if you do it. But if you're just not going to
imagine if they signed him and they said, he just fits what we're trying to do here. This is a real commander. Look, what you just said, it's great advice. I've shared similar advice. You know, for you young people, show up, be accountable, go beyond the job description. Because, you know, absent of, as you just said, Shakespearean talent, that's, you know, it's hard without at least being that. And I think, you know, for me, it's like, bottom line is this guy hasn't done what he could have done or he could be doing to actually get to where he says he wants to be. So the lack of action and then the process in which he's undergone has been, for any adult, this is obviously immature. It's unprofessional. And, it's a reveal of a lot of things. It's a reveal, certainly, of very hypersensitivity. And I'm just out. I think the bigger question is not where we are, because most people don't care, and that's fine. It's where do we think they are? Because I said earlier, Ben, I do think that prior to, let's just call it June 1st, that it was more likely than not that the team was going to be very interested in Brandon Ayuk when and if he became available. Now, there are clearly, you could certainly, I think, land on second thoughts about where we were 3 weeks ago. What do you think?
Yeah, prior to June 1st, like you said, it was more of a mystery. How come we haven't heard from Brandon Ayuk? We would kill for a workout video. Does he really want to play football? How is his knee? All these types of things. Obviously, there were even then still questions about, he lost all that money, didn't fight for it. The driving, excessive speeding, or by the 49er stadium and posting video of him doing it. All these things kind of were like, oh, what are you doing, dude? But all right, they at least sort of were like margin of error for wacky athletes. This is, now going beyond, to the point, if the goal is to get here or get somewhere, it just, the way he's going about it just does not make any sense. I don't know how. I've seen, some people try to defend it. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, there's no defense for any of this.
No, you see it in your timeline. I see it in my timeline. It's, it's perspective. Everybody's perspective is different, and your life experiences shape your perspective. And for some, they actually believe either A, he's in the right, or B, he's a grandmaster strategist. And for others, their perspective is, this is a child. No, I don't want him in a professional organization. All right, football-wise, you wrote about Leo Chenal. What does Washington see in Leo Chenal in 2026?
Yeah, when we got to free agency and, it was like, okay, the younger, faster bit, got it. Okay, so what does that look like? And, went through some of the, started looking through the names of different players and both sides of the ball. And it wasn't until pretty late in the process that I guess I took a longer look at Leo Chenal. And when I see a guy, for a coordinator who's the line is, it's not where you line up, it's where you wind up. To see a guy that played at least 50 snaps at 4 different linebacker spots, plus a good chunk of snaps, essentially as like an edge rusher on the line, even like a hit 1 or 2 or 3, like over the nose. This guy screams versatility. He's got, he had one of the greatest combine performances ever for a linebacker. He and Sonny Styles, that would be a really fun decathlon. Watching them do all these athletic traits, because they're both nuts. And he's more, I think, in like the Luvu style of linebacker, where it's like this downhill, see ball, get ball type of mindset. And again, just the younger, the faster, all that. I think he really epitomizes that. And again, what Durante Jones wants to do. So, Kansas City, I talked to Andy Reid at the owners meeting, the league meeting, and, he said, hey, one of my favorite players, great guy. Obviously, they're in a situation of, they just can't pay everybody. And so that they had to move on. But there's, I've heard, next to nothing negative here. Look, because he's incredibly muscular, he's like a rock of granite. I think that sort of hinders some of the agility. Yeah. And, I've heard some, positive things about his pass coverage, but I don't think that's like the strength. Better than what they had last year, probably, but not like, this is the go-to guy. I think that is more where Sonny Styles comes into play. But, again, for what this group is looking to do, he really feels like the perfect linebacker for this, lineup here, there, and everywhere, and, blitz, be aggressive kind of approach.
All right. I'll talk to you later. Thanks. Appreciate it as always.
Of course. See ya.
At Ben Standig on X. Next, Will Dawkins, the general manager of the Wizards. All right, so I had Wizards GM Will Dawkins on the show on Friday on my podcast, and obviously some of this breaking news this morning with Shams Charania from ESPN and Kevin O'Connor from Yahoo Sports reporting that the Warriors are interested in trading for Anthony Davis and then signing LeBron James to kind of team up with Steph Curry and Draymond Green in Golden State next year. I will tell you that I did not get into the specifics of that because I recorded this with him on Friday. I did ask him about Anthony Davis, and you'll hear that during the interview. But I welcomed him to the show and kind of started with just him trying to take us through the process during the lead up to the draft that landed on A.J. Debonsa at number 1 overall.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be on as always. Like you said, a really exciting week for us and being able to come up with new Wizard players and have conversations like you said, some we'll talk about, but the draft was really exciting for us, especially AJ, adding someone as dynamic as he is to our basketball team. We feel really lucky to have that opportunity. And once we found out, I guess it was beginning of May, you have the number 1 pick. You just make sure that you go back and you do your research and you spend a lot of time reviewing everything you've gotten on the person. And then we spent time on campus at BYU. We got back to his closest teammates and had real conversations to learn about him. And I think at that point, you bring him into town, you have him here for 48 hours, take him to dinner, watch film sessions with him, get him to meet the people so that he can get a feel for the environment, and then put him through a workout on the court and have him just answer some questions. And the good part about AJ is he wanted to come in, he wanted to visit, he wanted to be here and get on the court and show why he should be number 1. And shortly after that visit, I think we all got in the room and realized he was our guy.
When you won the lottery, because you obviously knew the worst case going into the lottery in terms of where you'd pick, you knew what the best case was. You ended up getting the best case in the number 1 pick. Do you have a list of, like, I don't know, just I'll throw out a random number, 12 possible players that immediately gets pared down to a much shorter number of players now that you've got number 1?
Yeah, it was weird because it was more of a calming presence over our group. I don't know myself specifically on that day because we knew our worst case was 5.
Right.
And we also knew how talented this draft really was. So I probably had 6 or 7 names in my head that I could walk away from this draft feeling really good about, and then a few that you feel great about. And when you get the opportunity to hear one, you jump into that list of, wow, we get to pick before anyone else and have our best player available for the first time since I've been here. So again, it was exciting, but it was a peaceful time because these guys are good young men and good basketball players. And we knew we'd get a great player in our worst case at 5 and got our best case at 1.
When did you know it was going to be A.J. Debonsa?
It's weird because when Michael and I first got this job a little over 3 years ago, when we sat down with Mr. Leonsis and the ownership group and just kind of put a plan together, if we were to go this route for a rebuild, we targeted the last few drafts. As drafts, we wanted to make sure we could pick up a high-level talent. And his name was on there even 3 years ago.
Really?
So he's always been someone, he's always been someone that our grassroots staff knew about and always made sure we were paying attention to. So we knew how gifted he was going to be. A lot had to work out for him to continue to grow and stay on that path. But he's been one of the top targets for a while. And you get an opportunity to kind of get into the draft, and they've added other guys that we had to really take deep thought about. And we brought some of those guys in, and he was the last one to come in. And probably a couple days after that workout, middle of June, we felt pretty good about him being the guy.
I mean, I'm a big look ahead, to future mock draft, drafts kind of a guy. And he was on that list, but so was Darren Peterson, and certainly Cam Boozer was. I mean, if you go back 2 years, I think Boozer was sort of the consensus kind of, 2026 future mock draft number 1 overall. So Debonsa's been on your radar for a while, but I'm assuming Peterson and Boozer were on your radar for a while as well.
Absolutely. And that's why we hire different departments. We're blessed to have a really robust staff, some that focus on just pro, some that focus on just amateur while they're in college, and others that focus on just grassroots so that they can be experts in those areas and they give you all the information on those guys. I probably get 1 or 2 pockets during the year or the summer to go see them. And of course, those guys had great high school careers, and we've been following them too.
Other than basketball, how they play on the court, what are the, 1, 2, 3 most important things that you have to learn about the player and the person?
Yeah, I think it starts with the person first, if I'm being completely honest. We got to add the right person with the right character and qualities that we look for off the court, because we really want to protect our environment and enhance it. So I'd say the character, the work ethic, just the passion for getting better is important. Someone who wants to learn, is curious and inquisitive, because that's really how you make those steps. But then once you kind of get through that and you feel good about it, it's what kind of drives them, what motivates them, how can they connect with their teammates. They do a few assessments off the court where you learn more about their physicality and their ability to move, kind of their mental progress and things of that nature. So it is a well-rounded, robust process we put them through. But at the end of the day, they got to be able to play basketball and do some stuff on the court too.
So, Will, I think NBA fans understand that in your sport, championship teams are almost always led by true elite level superstars. It's hard to find many championship teams over the last 20 years or so that didn't have an obvious top 5 MVP level player on it. And I think there's also this impression that the best chance to swing for one of those players is with the number 1 pick, even though, as you know, the best players don't always come at number 1. They come in the middle of the first round. They come in the second round. We've seen that recently with Brunson and Jokic a few years ago. And that is kind of the setup for this question. Did you guys view picking number 1 overall as a spot where you needed to take the player that had the highest ceiling, the most potential to be a superstar 4, 5, 6 years down the road? Is that the way you approached it?
Yeah, I think with AJ, he's someone who would go at the top of a lot of drafts. So when you run across a talent like him, he's special and you can identify it. But we're always going to pick the right person first. But then the attributes that we look for, we're trying to just double down on: size, athleticism, high-level processing, ability to make plays with the ball and without the ball, and be a two-way player that plays on defense, and he does all of that. And our scouts, we talk about it all the time. We're not weathermen. We're more weathermen than newscasters. Like, we don't just want to tell you what's going on right now for the next couple of years. We want the 7-day forecast, the 7-year forecast. And we pay more attention to the weather on these players and trying to predict who's going to be the best player 7 years from now, not just a few days from now in Summer League. And we think AJ's that guy.
I'm a weather enthusiast, and let me tell you, they can barely tell you what yesterday's weather was, let alone 7 weeks, 7 months, or 7 years down the road.
I didn't
Hopefully,
say they were accurate. I said they gave it to you.
Yeah, hopefully you hit on this long-range forecast. Who does he remind you of? Current player, past player?
Yeah, he's definitely a mix because he's got elite size at 6'10", but ball handling skills. He gets the Tracy McGrady one from time to time, which I get. But I just think he's someone that can create for multiple players. And I think once Richie Saunders went down, he started seeing double and triple teams and started making the right reads. So I think he's a big guard that makes plays, kind of like the Grant Hills, the Tracy McGrady's, kind of in that vein, but has a little bit more length, a little bit more athleticism to be a two-way defensive player as well. So he's going to be AJ DeBonsa, but you see little parts from other players as well.
Let me just tell you about an observation I made about him during the course of the year and then leading into this draft. He tested off the charts athletically. But for me, like, I don't see in the games like a Tracy McGrady, a Blake Griffin, a Vince Carter type of explosive athlete. I've been more focused and drawn to sort of his skill and his process. I know he's long, I know he's big, and he's, of course, is athletic. But I think when people see that he tested, ridiculously high, at the combine, they're thinking Tracy McGrady. McGrady was an explosive athlete. Do you see AJ that way?
Yeah, I think the best part with him is his athleticism. He has it like those guys, but it's translatable. It's functional athleticism that he can tap into to get low, get over a screen, get to an offensive rebound. And then he has those moments where he jumps and puts a putback dunk on someone's head that he shows that raw athleticism. So we do a lot of tests, a lot of biomechanics, and he tested the best of any athlete we've brought in through the last 4 drafts, just in terms of his functional athleticism. At the end of the day, we think that means more than just the raw burst that some of the other players have. So
Got it.
I understand it, but for us, it's even more impressive for him.
Yeah, no, but so you understand what I was trying to describe, like I think about, Dominique Wilkins and Vince Carter and some of the real quick, springy, explosive athletes. And you're saying it's functional athleticism as much of more so that's important than that explosive, springy athleticism.
Yeah. I grew up where Vince Carter was one of my favorite players. I got to meet him at a UMass basketball camp when I was little and followed him forever after that. Him and Dominique, those guys had the pop, but also the power to finish, like you said, with Blake Griffin. So I think this one's a little different, where AJ's a fluid athlete that has those moments where he can get up like that. But yeah, it is definitely different.
He compared himself to somebody I'm very familiar with because I'm a Maryland guy, but he compared himself to Len Bias. And I always will have said that Len Bias wouldn't have been Michael Jordan. He was actually much more like Dominique Wilkins because he was a forward. Okay. Jordan was a shooting guard, and Jordan had a much better handle. But Bias was an absurd shooter and was, as athletic and powerful as you said, like Sean Kemp powerful, at the rim. Anyway, all right. How does he fit?
How doesn't he fit is kind of how I saw it. He really amplifies the group. Obviously, he's coming into a situation where he doesn't have to dominate the ball when you have other established players like Anthony Davis, Alex Sarr, Trae Young, Keyshawn George, Trey Johnson, like playing next to him. He doesn't have to carry the offensive load right away, but his size, his versatility allows us to switch defensively and have 7-foot wingspan out there at all times.
Yeah. And
then multiple decision makers are hard to guard. And with his size, be able to pass over the defense, score, create out of the mid-range, out of the low post, attack switches. There's a lot left to grow and be in his game, but there's a lot we like about him. So he fits in a lot of our lineups, and eventually he'll be even more of our offensive engine as he gets more comfortable in the league.
All right. I know you got to run, but I got 2 more quick ones. First of all, just tell me about Anthony Davis and what you're expecting from him with this organization, hopefully, in the upcoming season.
Yeah, I would say we've had great conversations all summer, just like all of our players with Anthony. He's aligned, and he's starting his back workout to make sure he's ready to go for the season, just like all of our other players this jump season. So we anticipate Anthony to be a big part of what we're doing moving forward.
I think there's some buzz right now around this franchise that has not existed, quite honestly, for nearly a decade. I mean, there have been moments when Russell Westbrook was here briefly and Beal was leading the league in scoring, but these teams weren't threatening in terms of being a contender. It's been since May of 2017 when they lost the 7th and deciding game in the conference semifinals in Boston that there's been real legitimate hope and buzz around this team. You told me the last time you were on with me, it's time to start a new, run here, and the goals will be different. And the environment for developing these players has to be with winning in mind, et cetera. So I'll finish with, in your most realistic dreams, not wildest dreams, but most realistic dreams, what do you think the result could be in the upcoming 2026-2027 season to keep that buzz going?
Yeah, I would say I feel the buzz. When we took the job, we were told it was a basketball city, and I could just tell, even we were going through some of our lean years, the fans understood, and they were able to get behind some of the players. And nothing's going to change for us this year. We'll get our group together and continue to work hard and not skip any steps and kind of get better day by day. But the goal is to just be more competitive. Be more competitive night in and night out, kind of stack the days and see where we head. But we anticipate being in more games. We anticipate when we roll into arenas, teams taking us more seriously, and that comes at a learning curve. But again, I think we'll be much better at the end of next season than we are at the beginning, and hopefully we reach that point sooner than later. But again, we're trying to find sustained success, so whenever we get close, we're not just there for a year or two. Our guys are in it pretty consistently. So however long that takes, it'll take, but I think the fans should have hope and believe that we're getting better.
Thanks for doing this. Hope you're well. Let's do it again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks again.
Will Dawkins, everybody. Again, that was recorded from Friday. There's been some obvious news today with respect to the Warriors having interest in trading for Anthony Davis. All right. Circling back to Ayuk one last time on the show today when we come back. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com. This from Mula. Mula writes to me, how is this just a reflection of IU character, but you don't talk about the 8 months he was radio silent And DC radio just took what San Francisco had to say about him and judged him off that as well. These are the kinds of responses that are always head-scratching for me. I have no idea what DC radio at large, was saying during his silence or is even saying right now. I just know what I said. And I said during those, I don't know if it was 8 months, during those few months of radio silent, when we first started to talk about the potential availability of him, I'm all in on Brandon Ayuk if the team clears him medically and they can get him on a 1-year prove-it deal. So I don't know what you're talking about. I wasn't judging him. Now, I insisted be careful on judging him without really having enough information, and insisted and emphasized that we only had one thing that we knew for sure, and that was we knew that he forwent nearly $30-something million of guaranteed contract value and didn't fight for it. He allowed the team to void roughly $30 million. I've seen the numbers from 29 to 38 or whatever it is. But he allowed them to void those guaranteed dollars. This was unprecedented. And nobody fought for it. He didn't. His representation didn't. The union didn't, or they haven't so far. And that was the only thing we knew about his situation. The only thing. That was, and I did suggest, it certainly seems like it's a reflection of bad judgment, not showing up the 1 or 2 days a month to get your knee that's been rehabbed, checked on by the team, which was part of the contractual commitment. I didn't think that was very smart. But to me, all along, I don't know what you're talking about. I was all in. Now I'm not. I didn't judge him. I didn't take San Francisco's side. I simply said, we know one thing, doesn't make him look great, but I'm still interested. So your tweet was basically wrong as it relates to me. Yeah, by the way, that was the way I felt. Now I feel much differently about it after the 3-week video barrage. Look, I kind of feel the same way the people close to him feel, like TJ Houshmandzadeh, which is be quiet, get yourself reinstated, and start acting like somebody who actually wants to play football and is taking action towards getting yourself back out onto the football field. TJ Houshmandzadeh and others feel like he may be done. Matt Mayoko, the guy that covers the 49ers, we had him on the show, 2 weeks ago, right, Max? Said he believes Brandon Ayuk may have played his last football in the NFL after the last 3 weeks. I personally don't believe that. I think there's too much talent there. I think somebody will take a shot at him. I wouldn't if I were Adam Peters at this point. I'd be very, very leery because there have been a lot about character that's been revealed here over the last 3 weeks. And it's going to end that way with you as well. Maybe you get a year or 2 years out of him. And you know what? He could really be good if he were like he was at the end of 23, which was always the point for why I was interested. Yeah, the truth will do, Moolah. All right, done. Back tomorrow. Chris is next.